Make better coffee with these simple tamping tips. G'day, I'm Luke and welcome to the Artisti YouTube channel where we guide you through all things coffee. And so you don't miss out on any of our latest videos, hey, make sure you do like and subscribe and hit the bell and you'll be notified when we pop up our latest video. Now, today we're going to be covering something that's so simple that a lot of baristas, whether you're doing it at home or in the cafe, can really have an effect on your end extraction. And that is the process and the technique of how you tamp your coffee. So I'm just going to run through a couple of the do's, the don'ts, and the tools you need to make sure that you take the tamping out of the issue when you're looking at assessing your extraction. So there are more parts to a coffee extraction that we're all aware of, which would be the dose, the grind size, the distribution of that coffee. We're just going to take all that away and make sure that we're getting the right process to start with when we're applying the pressure to the bed of coffee. So you're going to need a couple of tools to be able to do that and do it right. And when we get into a cafe, it's such a simple thing, but we see the wrong size tamper for the wrong size basket. So this is a 58mm tamper, and this is a 58mm E61 group handle. And you can get a whole range of sizes from 52 all the way up to that 58. But when you get so close, you can have up to a 58.8, a 58.6, 58.2, and that will change the very small difference in between whether that's going to fit nicely and snug into the basket that you're using. So if you've got a straight wall basket with no line in it, that would have a different tamper to one that does have the basket spring line in it. So making that assessment and getting the right tamper to fit is going to be the best thing you can do. You're also going to need some sort of bench protection. It will look after your bench, but also provide a great platform for you to have your tamping handle nice and flat and level on the bench. These are great Lamazocco handles because they do have an extra sort of welded piece on there which allows you to sit flat on the end of the bench. But other handles, you have to use this curved area to be able to try and stay steady when you're tamping. So get a good tamp mat. There's a whole different range out there that will help you fix that problem. The other one, mainly for the home market, is in a commercial machine, you'll see these spouts are pointing back towards the handle, which allows us to actually rest it on the edge of the bench. In the home market, they can be facing the other way. And you need to get a tamping cradle, which allows you to lock that in and hold the handle in place so that you're not putting pressure on the spouts onto the bench and essentially not being level or picking up all these grinds that you get on the bench and putting them in your cup. So with the tools covered, let's get into the don'ts. So I did touch on one of the first don'ts, and that is don't have the handle sitting on the spouts. Some of the spouts can actually pop off when you do put pressure on them, like these Lamazocco ones, but also any grind that is around there will end up in the cup, so we don't want to do that. So make sure you do get nice and level and solid on the edge of the bench. Make sure that the basket is actually flat and level, because you'll see that these handles are actually on an angle. Some older machines, they have a straight handle, so you just got to know which handle you've got to make sure that your basket is level on the bench. So we don't want to tamp on an angle. When you've finished your tamp, if you're on a huge angle, the water is going to naturally go down into the gully or the lowest point of the angle that you've already created and process all of the coffee in that smaller bed rather than the bigger bed on the high side. So that's why we have to make sure that that coffee puck and bed is perfectly flat so the water goes through nice and even. So we want to make sure that we are holding the tamper correctly. And a lot of people have big hands, small hands, and make sure that you do get the tamper length here that fits your hand. Because I've got a smaller hand and I know Jimmy has a massive hand, and you can buy some little washers which will make that feel a lot more comfortable so you can get the right grip. So don't be grabbing it like this and trying to stamp the coffee. It's just not going to work. It's going to give you uneven pressure every time that you bang down on that coffee bed. So we do want that to be nice and flat and level, but we don't want to then add more coffee on top and then re-tamp, because that's going to have two different distinct levels of coffee with two different pressures, and the water won't flow through. And it still happens today that people want to loosen up the grind which is on the outside of the basket by bashing the side of the group handle. All that's doing is wrecking your tamper and wrecking your group handle, and basically it's hitting an impact on the side of the coffee which you've actually pushed into the wall of the coffee, creating an air pocket, and essentially that's going to give you channeling and a poor coffee extraction. And the last one is you don't want to have an inconsistency in the pressure that you're applying to that coffee. So in the morning, we're a little bit more awake and we tend to put a bit more pressure on. As the day gets hotter, we can get a bit tired and we tend to just be a bit softer. We do want to have a consistent pressure applied to that coffee all the time. So let's go and have a look at the do's and the good stuff that we should be looking at when we're tamping to get all of those don'ts out of the way and have a consistent tamp coffee bed. So the whole process is to ensure that we do get that handle sitting nice and level and solid on the bench. We're going to position our hand inside the tamper as if we're holding it like a tennis racket, and then we're going to put our fingers up on the edge. Now that's going to allow us to do a slight little turn and ensure that we're level once we've applied the pressure. When we're going to apply the pressure, I recommend bringing your inside foot and standing sideways to the bench. If you're standing in front, you tend to do this and it pops your shoulder out, and that is just going to be a killer for RSI over the years. So by going sideways, we can lift our elbow up nice and high, and we're basically going straight down onto the coffee bed. And for the pressure, we're going to rock from one foot to the other. We can do this all day long, but this all day is actually quite straining on your shoulder and your muscles, but your feet can move. So that's my tip to make sure you get the constant pressure and look after yourself long term. So we're going to put our tamper inside the coffee bed. We're going to position ourselves nicely. You can raise your elbow up nice and high, and we're just going to push down firmly onto the coffee till it stops. We're not trying to push super hard and push right through it, and we're not going to do it just gently. We just want to firm till it stops. We're going to use these two fingers that are sitting on top to turn and make sure it's nice and flat and level. And then we're going to remove the handle and make sure that we do have a nice flat surface ready to go. So in the cafe environment, if you've been a barista for a couple of years, you could do some maths very quickly about how many times you've picked this tamper up and pushed it onto a group head handle. If you're doing 200 a day, times it by how many weeks in a year you actually work and how many years you've been as a barista, and you've done that action so many times, obviously affecting your shoulder, wrist, arm and your body. So when we look at an investment perspective on finances, a tamper basic is about 50 Australian dollars, up to a couple of hundred if you want to get a customized tamp, and a mat is about 30 bucks. So is it a good investment to look at an automatic tamper? They're starting now around the 800 Australian dollars, which is great, up to around the $2,000. For us, it's definitely a great investment because it's going to standardize all of those issues. It's going to give a nice level tamp because it locates into the basket. It holds the handle nice and flat and level in the cradle, so you don't have to worry about the bench. And it's going to provide an even pressure every single time on top of that coffee bed. And it's so simple. Just pop it in and you're done. Easy as that. You could do that all day, every day, and spend so much more time focusing on other things. So everyone, I hope that helps you work out how you can get a much better quality tamp onto your coffee bed while you make coffee spills, so that you can get a better extraction. Getting this foundational part sorted is going to make it a lot easier when you start to analyze your extractions, because you will look at channeling or distribution or the dose or the grind, knowing that this process is the same. Thanks very much for watching, guys. I hope that's helped you fix your process on how you can tamp. If you've got any hot tips, leave them down below. We'd love to hear from you. Thanks again, guys. We'll catch you next time. Cheers.